for Councilor at large. And the person at the end gets an extra bottle of water because we've set out for 5. So we have Joe Callahan, Ivan Court, Mel Norton, Matthew Thompson, and for Councilor at large, John Campbell, Shirley McAleary, Shelley Reinhardt, and Jason Robertson. After we have the introduction, the floor will be open for discussion and questions. So we'll ask people to come forward to the microphone, and they will have the opportunity to pose a question. Not every question is going to be answered by every person, okay? So we're going to have over here, the first person and the third person are team number 1, and person number 2 and person number 4 are team number 2. And so we're going to start off with the first question will be answered by team 1 on this side, and then we'll go over here and we'll have team 1 and team 2 over here. Okay, and then we will, if there's anything that the person wants to, that did not have the opportunity to answer, that is, I guess, a burning debate issue for them, then we encourage them to raise their hand and we'll give them the opportunity to address that. But we're not looking for every person to answer every question. For the introduction, they will be given a period of 3 minutes, and Mary Lesage, who is our operations manager at Pulse, she is going to be the timekeeper. At 2 minutes and 30 seconds, Mary will stand so that you know that you have 30 seconds left, and then she will stand at 3 minutes, and that means that time is over. And we will, ask that everyone respect that. So we'll go along that format so people can come to the microphone and pose their questions. After the group discussion has taken place, there are many times that you may have specific questions or issues that you want to bring forward to a particular candidate. We've asked candidates to bring some material with them, which they've put out on tables. They will be at tables here in the auditorium, and you can go and speak with them individually at that time. Okay? Just a couple of housekeeping things. If you want things like tea, coffee, and cookies, we have them over here for you. If you need washroom facilities while you're here, we would ask that you go down the corridor here and turn to your right. That's where the washrooms are located. We also have here, as a part of our support for Habitat for Humanity, they are doing a penny draw, but you don't have to limit yourself to pennies because they're going out of circulation anyway, so you should put bigger things in. But they have a jar here, and they're doing a fundraising event over the next period of time, and if you wish to, you can make contributions to that, and that will go to them directly. All right, so I think we're all ready to start. Our candidates all ready? And I also have a message that has come from one of the candidates who could not be here this evening, and when it comes to the opportunity for her 3 minutes of address, I will read that to you. Okay, so, Mr. Callahan, if you'd like to come to this microphone, please. And there's bottles of water there for you if you need them. So again, the questions that we're asking: introduction of yourself, priorities for the city, greatest strength, greatest weakness as a leader, and what separates you from the pack. Mary, time to start.
Thank you very much. How y'all doing this evening? Pretty good? Excellent. Well, of course, I'm Joe Callahan, and I'm running for mayor. A little about myself. My wife and I moved up here from the Republic of Texas, and we were living here a short time before we decided that we wanted to stay in Canada. We applied for citizenship, and after a lot of hard and anxious moments, we finally became Canadian citizens, and very proud of it. Happy to be here. Hey, they ask me that when I go down to Texas, too. But the reason I want to be mayor is very simple. I just feel that it's an opportunity for me to give back to a good community and a lot of nice people. And it gives me a chance to serve and help. And I think that's the best way that I can probably give back to the community. The only political promise I've made was to help restore the funding to the SPCA and the Rescue League. It's very important to me but it's not the only thing that is important to me. I basically just want the same things everybody else wants. I want clean water coming into the homes, clean water going into the bay. I've got better streets, prosperous neighborhoods, and the best education that we can possibly give to our young people and young adults before they leave high school. I'm running for one term only, and that's because I do not want a political career. I just want to try and do the best job I can for the people of Saint John. And if I can do anything to move it forward in a better direction, well, that's why I'm running. And, thank you very much for your time, and look forward to your questions and meeting more of you individually after the session is over. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And now we would ask the incumbent, Mayor Ivan Clark.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Most of you know me as a teacher. Most of you know me as the mayor and a councilor for 10 years on Saint John City Council. I started off my career in 3 vulnerable communities. I lived and walked in the vulnerable communities, but I grew up in those vulnerable communities, and I've never forgotten my roots. And in my entire career, in my entire life, I've stood up for people, and I will continue to stand up for people. When it came to education, when they were closing the community schools, I went and took on the school board. I went directly to the ministers of education and asked them to keep the schools open. I have a master's degree in teaching and instruction, and I found that when I was teaching in high school, that they tried to make everybody an academic, and we had 500 students in 1 year drop out of our 4 high schools. Only 2 students dropped out of St. Malachy's where I was teaching, and I thought that was a sad state of affairs, that we weren't getting to those people who had other attributes, other ways of learning. The skills are important. The plumbers, the carpenters, electricians, and so on. Nobody in this country should have to apologize for the school they go to or the career that they end up with. Every job is important or it wouldn't exist. When it came to Canadian Blood Services, I went out there and offered $1 to take back the building because they had a trust. We gave them the building for $1. They were to stay here. $25 million is going to Dartmouth. We're losing 31 jobs out at Canadian Blood Services here in Saint John. That's not acceptable. People have to be willing to stand up. As the president of the Friends of St. Joe's for 12 years, we fought for improvements at the hospital. We fought for nurse practitioners, along with Esmond Berry and others and so on. This was a cause for standing up. You have to be willing to do that regardless of political stripes. Whether it's a liberal, conservative, whoever's leading, if they're making mistakes, you have to be willing to stand up for the people that you serve. As a councilor, I was never afraid to stand up and say that the LNG project was a bad deal. It was a bad deal because we lost over $100 million in taxation. And some of the people are sitting right in here I stood with for 13 days at the hearings, and I spoke every day about why it was a bad deal and why we deserve better. The bottom line is you need a mayor who's going to stand up and stay with the people no matter what the cost is. Being the mayor is one thing, but if at the end of the day you don't have a good name, you have nothing. There's nothing you can take with you at the end of your life. The bottom line, what I'm promising is safe, clean drinking water. I promised there would be no tax increase during our 4-year term. We actually lowered the tax rate by 1%. During that 4-year period. We have not raised taxes. Safe, clean drinking water is our next big project. Since 2000, we have spent over $80 million on safe, clean drinking water. We need another $172 million. We need the other 2 levels of government to step up to the plate with their 1/3. The other thing we have to do is our priority neighborhoods. We have to improve the recreational areas. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Mel Norton.
Hi everyone. My name is Mel, and as most of you know, I grew up over in the North End. I went to Mayoral School and went to Lorne Junior High, and then graduated from Saint John High School. And then I got a chance to go to UNB SJ, and then I went away to law school and came back here to Saint John. I've lived within throwing distance of the Princess Street, Sydney Street area ever since. I live uptown here on Princess Street, and for the last year and a half, I've had the extreme privilege of representing this community, which includes both the peninsula, the Lower West Side, and East Saint John out to McAllister Drive. In terms of the priorities or issues for Saint John, the first one is it's really about team building. Right now, we do not have a team around the council table, and that's a problem, and it's a problem because without a team, we can't have consensus, and without consensus, we can't get work done. The second issue, following up on building a team, is addressing our big problem, which is the pension issue. We need to fix the pension issue, and then we also need to, as our #1 priority in terms of infrastructure, get a deal for clean, safe drinking water in Saint John. My personal strength, and it's built on the Tell Mel slogan you see on our posters, on our signs, it's about listening. I think leadership is a lot more about listening and a lot less about talking. And lastly, just in terms of what separates me from the pack, it's about building that consensus, that ability that's carried out in everyday life inside of my work and inside of the council chamber to try and build consensus and build bridges both inside the council and across the province instead of picking fights. Thank you.
And our last candidate for mayor, Matthew Thompson.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for coming out on this beautiful evening. This morning started a little soggy, but today has turned out to be a typical maritime day. Beautiful. My name is Matthew Thompson. I am 33 years old. I am the proud husband of my beautiful wife, who is sitting in the audience here with me. The proud father of 22-month-old Jackson, who is my world and everything, and we are expecting our second child coming in September. Fingers crossed for a girl, I'm hoping. But I'm running for mayor of Saint John, and tonight we were just asked to talk about our top 2 priorities. My #1 priority for the city of Saint John is turning it to a business model that works. Oftentimes when you look at the past of this city, we see that it has not operated as a business. It's been more of a political arena. One of the things that we need to do is focus on turning our city into a profit-making business once again. This will allow us to be able to reach out and to do the programs that need to be done in the city and to grow it. One of those things that needs to be done is to curtail our spending. We have a huge spending issue in our city. We need to get that under control. We need to definitely take care of that. We need to look at all the areas across the board and see if we are providing the best services to you, the citizens, for the price that we are paying. Another model that I want to maybe bring into is look at maybe bringing an ISO type management system to the city to better run it so that we can better manage it and provide our services. If we are able to fiscally get our system back into a state of where we're balancing our budgets and where we're not overspending, and if we're able to move our city into a business model towards looking for growth, my second priority will be able to be accomplished, and that is growing our city and leading it into a prosperous future. It would be nice to have good roads again. It would be nice to have clean, safe drinking water. It would be nice to have good recreation and good bus service. It would be nice to have programs for our children and our teens and our seniors and for our young families. But all that's going to cost money. And our current budgets just don't show that we can maintain what we need. Even with fixing pension and getting everything under control, it's not there. We've seen it over years. It's not there to be able to sustain us to moving into growth. And what we need to do is take that plan that we have in place, a business model, and launch our city into growth. Going out and bringing new industry into our city. Growing the revenues by bringing in opening ourselves up as a business model that's open for business so that companies look to us and say, look, we don't want to go to Halifax or Moncton or anywhere else. We want to go to Saint John because the best people are there. The best services are there. One of my strengths is the ability to be able to recruit people and to put together a team that can do amazing things. I love working with people. I'm not the type of person that thinks that the buck stops with me. I believe that everybody is a team player, and I'm able to get everybody involved to work for a greater goal. My weakness, I can care too much and get a little too overpassionate, which sometimes is good and sometimes is bad. So, it's exciting times in the city. Exciting things are in store, and I hope you just enjoy tonight. Ask the questions, and anything that you have, just let me know. I'm really interested in talking to you more afterwards. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That are the four mayoralty candidates. Now we will move on to the members at large, and they all seem to have a major flu bug on this side, so I will stay away. Surely you will tomorrow. Our first candidate this evening is John Campbell.
Good evening. First off, I want to apologize. I have a bad cold. If my eyes look a little glassed over, believe me, it's Robitussin. I've been guzzling that stuff all day. First off, I'm John Campbell, and I'm running for Councilor at large. My background has been, I brought up here in Saint John, New Brunswick, primarily on Prince Edward Street, but lived on Harding Street. I went to the school. Of course, I was brought up in poverty, so I was also living in foster homes. So I went to most of the schools in the city, believe it or not, including Hampton and a variety of Sussex, all over. So anyway, I went off to the military. I spent my career in the Armed Forces 20 years, and I specialized as a logistics planning and deployment. I also did a diplomatic tour to the Reagan White House from 81 to 85, which gave me some great insight and experience in dealing with other organizations. Obviously, as you can imagine, Washington being the center of the diplomatic world. I also did a tour with the Governor General of Madame Sauvé of Canada, a special assignment with her over security. That gave me quite a bit of insight as well, dealing with the Americans on a large scale for security coming into Canada. I came home here. I retired in 1996 from the Canadian Armed Forces, and I brought my family back here and sent them to school, NB SJ. And the plan was that they would fall in love with a local, have children, and stay here. I know it's conniving, but it worked. I now have 5 grandchildren living in this city, and I want to make sure they have the opportunity to stay here. When we start looking at priorities, I'll tell you the priorities we have. This pension plan, and I know I get repetitive on this, because I've been working on it for now over 4 years. When this council initially denied there was even a problem with the pension plan, well, lo and behold, now we do know, and it's hitting us in reality right in between the eyes. So we got to ensure that is taken care of, and it's taken care of very quickly. Unfortunately, I doubt that it'll be taken care of during this session of the legislation. Now, that's not to say it's all doom and gloom. We can correct and we can get it done. There's a lot of money we're spending on that plan. We also have to take care of our water, and we also have to work on development and encourage businesses to come to Saint John. We have to change the whole operation at City Hall in the way that they look at business and the citizen. They have to be welcoming. And whether you're a business or a citizen going up to City Hall, the first thing out of their mouths should be, how can we help you make your dreams come true? Let's work with you. If you're open to business and to the citizens, you will draw in citizens to live here, and you'll draw in businesses, because we need employment. Like I said, I've got 5 grandchildren, and I need a future for them. Thank you very much.
I'm just going to take a moment to read a message from Mary Ellen Carpenter, who was unable to be here this evening. She writes, "Good evening. I would like to extend my apologies for being unable to attend tonight, as I have a prior commitment. I am a social activist who lives on the West Side and have been working for the last decade to improve the quality of life of my neighbors, many of who are living in third world conditions. I have no affiliation with bureaucrats at any political level. Perhaps this explains why said bureaucrats have provided no assistance. Despite numerous reports and inquiries, none have shown the common courtesy to even return my calls. Details of my activities may be found at safeplaysj@blogspot.com. Currently, I have chartered a bus for the first weekend in May to illustrate the economic advantages of a safe, convenient, affordable, viable transportation alternative. This showcases the recreational, scenic, historical attributes of the West Side. I invite everyone to our Managosh Powwow, May 4th, 5th, and 6th. Look forward to seeing you there. Sincerely, Mary Ellen Carpenter. And on one of the tables you will see some leaflets which describe the event that she's referring to on May 4th and 6th, and they will be back here for people to pick up and access. It also identifies the blog spot that you can get more information about her from. Thank you. The speaker is Councilor Large.
Thank you very much, Carl, and thank you to all the organizers, and good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's my pleasure to be here. You know, this is sort of like old home week to me because since I've been campaigning, I've met all these people that I used to know, you know, years ago. I just give you a little history of myself. I worked for Canada for over 26 years, and in 1992, I joined the City Council as Deputy Mayor, and in 1995, spent the next 9 years as mayor until 2004. The reason why I decided to offer as councillor at large is that we have a wonderful city. I love Saint John. We have a great quality of life, and I'm sure you'll all agree with me on that. But we have a few difficulties, and I think I have the experience and the commitment to help make those difficulties go away. One is our pension plan. We have to fix it. We can't all be suffering because we have an outstanding deficit in the pension plan. Many of the cuts that's happened over the last few years have been because of the pension plan, and people are suffering. You know, the transit cuts. Some people in this city lost their jobs because they cannot get to their work because of a transit cut. You know, the animal control funding was cut. Many other cuts. Our roads are in bad condition. It makes a very negative impact on the city. We need to keep our good quality of life. We need clean drinking water. I can tell you that we worked for years to get the sewage cleaned up in the city, and it's finally happening and almost completed. We need to work with the other municipalities around us. They contribute to us, and we contribute to them. We can't live in this on an island. We have to have everyone working together. And City Hall has to have some of its respect back. You know, the mayor and council have to work together and respect one another. They don't always have to agree. They probably will never agree with everything, but they do have to respect one another, and that sets the tone for the whole city. With the city staff and people communicating with City Hall, they need to receive respect. We need to be open for business. Building permits, development planning needs to happen faster in this city. We need to be there because we need every opportunity available to provide jobs for our young people. So I just want to tell you that I do have the experience, the commitment, the energy, and I would like to work again with the city. I don't know what my weakness would be other than the fact that I go to McDonald's at least once a week for hamburgers and Coke. I mean, I don't know what else you want me to say, but they say that's not good for you. So thank you very much.
Our next at-large candidate is Shelley Reinhardt.
So Shirley tells me that I'm infectious, and John just asked me if I was going to compete with him for the sympathy vote, so I'm going to try not to cough. This feels like Old Home Week. A little bit about me. I was born and brought up just on the corner of Pitt and Mecklenburg Street, and I went to school in this building, actually from grade 1 to grade 9, so it's a little comfortable when I come back here. I went to UNB Saint John and did an arts degree in psychology. Then, according to some of my profs, I did a little bit of a turncoat and did a master's in business administration. I got a job at UNB Saint John, and they actually sent me away to do my PhD, and I've been at UNB ever since. So 20 years in the Faculty of Business at UNB Saint John. I was the Dean of Business there for 7. They rented me for 4 years to the provincial government, and I just returned to UNB in January to teach marketing, which is my passion. you know, my vision, I guess, is that first of all, in terms of campaigning, I'm not going to make any promises that I'm not sure I can keep. And I've been steadfast on that since this process started. But I will say that I believe we have to immediately address our financial situation. And what I mean by that is we have to start to live within our means. Does that mean that we cut everything willy-nilly? No, it doesn't. It means that we have got to have some kind of financial plan. We need to look at what revenue we have coming in, what revenue we have going out, and where we have some flexibility, no different than you would with your household income. So you don't want to cut your television out of your budget because that affects your quality of life, but perhaps you only need 10 channels instead of 600, and then you can allocate the rest of that money somewhere else. I really do believe that Saint John can be a community of choice, and that requires strategic investment in infrastructure that will make it a place that people want to come to do business or to live or just to visit, and that has to be part of that budgeting strategy. My strength, I think I have a very common sense approach to how I do things in my own life. I think I'm a team builder, and I certainly love a challenge. When I took over as dean at UNB Saint John, they'd had 5 deans in 5 years, so it wasn't exactly the most attractive position, but it certainly represented a challenge. My weakness, I'm a workaholic. My family will tell you that. What sets me apart from the pack is I love to work as a team, and I agree, you don't always have to agree, but you have to be respectful of one another and work together. Thank you.
Our final candidate tonight for Councilor at Large, Jason Robertson.
Hi there, folks. I guess I'm the rookie on the at-large panel. It's going to sound familiar. Like Mel, I too grew up in Milledgeville, went to MJLT, went to Lorne, of course then I went to St. Max. Then I went off to UNB with wide aspirations of being a sports psychologist. Didn't turn out that way. Came home, got a job, went back to school for business marketing, and I worked in advertising for 5 years, and now I sell cars. Just trying things out, trying different things. So I like the variety of the spice of life. As far as the number one priority, we sound like broken records up here, but it's teamwork. We have to work together. A good example of this is when I went to St. Max, our rugby team. We had 11 guys out of the 15 starters that were on the provincial team. So 11 of the best 22 players in the province are on one team. You know how many games we won? 0. Because we were a bunch of individuals trying to do it ourselves. It doesn't work. We have to work together. My greatest strength is my ability to step outside a problem and really look at it. When you're in the middle of the problem, you don't see all the parts. You don't see how it affects different people. You have to take that step back and really understand it. My greatest weakness is sometimes I come off as pompous. I'm a little too smart for my own good sometimes, and in trying to educate people, I come off a little off color. And I've been working on that, keeping calm, and just trying to educate. The city has many problems, but we can fix them if we all work together. And it's not just the council, it's the whole community getting together. I hate to resort to quoting Kennedy, but really, ask not what your city can do for you, but what you can do for your city. We have to do this together, folks. Thanks.
Jason has put the challenge out there. Now it's your opportunity to ask questions. So I would ask for individuals, if you have questions that you want to address, to put your hand up and we'll bring you to a microphone to pose questions to the persons. We're going to have to 2 teams, because if we go through every person for every question, we're going to end up that we'll get 2 questions done, and I think that there's probably more than 2 questions out there that people would like addressed. So, Chris Bellier, if you'd like to just come to this microphone. And we ask that you limit the question. We don't want a lot of the 3rd epistle to the Romans. We just want to have questions.
Is it to everybody?
No, it's going to be the teamwork. So it'll be to these 2 individuals and these 3.
Okay. My name is Chris Bellier. I'm for Council in Ward 3. When I lost my job at Saint John Shipbuilding, we kind of fell a little bit on hard times. I was working at the time making minimum wage, but I really couldn't make ends meet at the end of the month. So I ended up going to the food bank, and the food bank was located out in Dr. Roberts. And when I had to go to the food bank, there was a woman sitting in the corner, and she was pretty distraught. She had, I asked her, what she was distraught about. She said, "Well, I spent my last $15 on cab to get out here to get a box of groceries," and she said she didn't know how she was going to get back. I had worked with Abel LeBlanc and Mayor Ivan Court, and they were instrumental in getting the food bank moved down to the Lower West. So my question is to you guys. What are you going to do for the food bank system, and what are you going to do for the poverty of the city?
Mr. Callahan?
Please come to the mic.
Well, it's a good question, and it's a tough question. The volunteers that I've met from Mayoral House, some others, are doing an outstanding job. And when I dropped off some food, when I was there trying to find out more about the operation, I said, "Is there anything else I can get?" And she goes, "Pepper." And I said, it sounded like a strange request, and I said, "Okay." And I went to the store and I got a big bag of pepper, and I said, "Well, I can see why. Pepper's pretty expensive." And I planned on going to the bulk barn next time to get some. But the answer on the food banks is a tough question, but I think there has to be more places. There's been a lot of places I've been shopping at that have had the stands for food banks. I think there should almost be one in every grocery store. Not sporadically, but occasionally, And of course, we can all help them on food drives and everything more. But it's a problem that we need to address, and it's a shame that it is a problem, because I've been in poverty before a couple of times. I was so desperate for a job. One time in my life, when there was no public transportation where I was staying, I offered to work for free, 4 different places. I said, "If you like me, you can hire me." Nobody took me up on it. I was so desperate, about 3 days later, I applied for a job, and they asked me if I could do it. I said, "You bet, I've done it before." Lie. Well, I got in there, and the first thing the guy says is, "I don't know how they taught you at the last place, but this is how we do it." He showed me how to do the job. I left about 4 months later and for a better job, and they hated to see me go. But I know what it's like to need to work desperately, and so I know a little bit about poverty, and it's I'm amazed at the organizations and the volunteers in this city since I've been running for mayor, that there's so many more nice people than I even realized. That the experience alone has been worth it.
Thank you very much.
How many Lower West Siders have we got in the audience here besides Chris Bellier? All right, so we got a couple more, 3 more, 4 more. For those of you who are from the West Side, and for those of you who aren't, you'll know that St. George's Church is an institution in that neighborhood. And one of the neatest things they do on Sundays at 4:30, you can go to St. George's Church every Sunday at 4:30, and you can get a free meal. There's a little discreet option plate next to the kitchen window before you pick up your meal, and if you choose, you can throw a couple dollars in there. What's really neat is that St. George's Church started that initiative completely on faith. It was based on the idea that if we have a place where people in the community who are in need can come and get a hot meal even once a week, somehow that will break even. There's no price tag at the door, and somehow every week it's broken even. Breaks even week after week after week. Sometimes there's a little more than they need, sometimes there's a little less. but it works out so that they're able to provide an incredible service to a community that has a lot of needy people in it. And it's those kinds of very basic, very simple community initiatives that we can take on, that we as individuals can be part of. Chris, you're right, it's something we don't talk enough about the needs of that community. But I think as individuals and as a group, supporting those kinds of initiatives, that's one step towards solving what is the hunger issue in Saint John.
I'll move over to the councillors at large and get a couple of perspectives from there, and John Campbell will speak first.
Sure thing. That's a good question, Chris. And when I look at the food banks or any of those organizations like Outflow, I don't know if you're familiar with Outflow. I volunteer with them every once in a while. Not as much as I'd like to because I got a lot of things on my plate. But the strength in them is the volunteers. And nobody is going to carry that project out better than the community and the volunteers that come from that community. So as a city council, I think we would be putting them in a bad position if we tried to muscle in on it. What we need to do is listen to those volunteer groups and assist them where they tell us they need assistance with. Whether it be helping to do the drive for the foods, getting out the awareness campaign, or actually, you know, there might be some city facility that could be made available to them. But I think really as a council, if we really want to help them, we have to listen to them. And it's the volunteers that pull this off, and we have to recognize that. There's no point in council trying to take a lead role, whether it be the food banks or soup kitchens or any of that type of thing. We need the community to take that lead role, that they know what they need. All they have to do is ask us. We need to listen, and if we can provide that support and it's available, we should be giving it. Thank you.
Nothing like
Shelley Reinhardt.
Going at the end of three other really good answers. I think that it is a very good question, Chris, and it's an important one for our community. And I think part of the answer is in community. I think that we need to reintroduce the sense of community and a sense of pride back into Saint John that was here years ago, where we are a community and we want to help one another. I remember when I grew up in the South End, and we were in a very mixed neighborhood where some people had more and some people had less, but everybody shared. And, I think that that's what we need to do. We need to make some strategic investments in infrastructure that brings the pride and the sense of community back into Saint John. I agree. I don't think that we take over the nonprofit organizations, but I do think we lead by example. And so if we have a mayor and council that shows leadership and a sense of community and a sense of team, then that spills forward into our community. And I'm not saying it will solve our poverty issues and it will solve some of our other issues, but it certainly will get us on the right road to a better way of life in our community. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Does anyone from the group that did not have the opportunity to answer have something that they would like to share at this time?
When I taught at St. Malachi's Political Science, I brought up political science class down in South End. On one of the walls it said, "Hungry, eat the rich." We don't take care of our poor. We're going to have the poor taking care of us, stealing, whatever takes place, and so on. We have an obligation to provide the basic needs to our citizens, regardless of the economic situation that they're facing. Food, clothing, and shelter. We have to provide affordable housing. We have to provide food banks. We have to provide locations. Chris pointed out that the Sand Cove Road location, your cost, and the same thing with going to the hospital. We put the health center in the same facility with the food bank and the clothing bank for a reason. It was $12 to go to the hospital and $12 to come back. $24 for somebody who couldn't put food on their table. By putting it in their neighborhood, they could walk to it. That was a saving. They could use that money for food or clothing for their families and so on. That's what we have to do more of, working with the churches, in the neighborhoods, and the schools. The lunch program for the children in the schools and the morning programs. We have to assist those schools with their needs. And the soup kitchen was supposed to be a 2-year venture. I think they celebrated their 25th or 30th anniversary. I think in our region we have 22 food banks. The gap between the rich and poor is not narrowing, it's getting wider. If we can keep our children in school and they get an education, they can move out of poverty. I did. My family did. I was the first person in my family to go to high school. I went to work at 14, and because my father sent me there, I paid for my own books, I paid for my education, and I paid for my university degree by working till this day. I've never had a day off since I was 14 years old. I've never collected unemployment, and I'm proud to say I got that because I had a strong family. Nobody counted the number of children sitting at the table. Neighbors came in, we opened our doors, we didn't lock the doors neither. We have to get back to that sense of community as was already indicated by the people over here. We have to take care of our own. Thank you.
Okay. Next question, please. Could you come to the microphone? And if you could state your name, what area of the city you live in, that'd be great. Thank you.
Ron Oldfield. My family's from South Bay. So that's all right. I'll just go on. My question would be, I think one of the biggest issues going to face the city in the next 4 years would be water. I'd like to know who's willing to support a publicly owned, publicly run water system for the city of Saint John.
Team number 2 will be addressing this question, and we'll start with Ivan Coy.
Thank you. On that issue, I've always stood on the issue that we will have a publicly owned, publicly operated water system for the city of Saint John. Water is a necessity of life. No one should be desired to be rejected from having water as a usage. If it gets into private hands, I'm afraid large corporations and so on are going to benefit from that. 91% of the water in the city of Saint John is consumed by industry and the commercial sector and the institutional sector. 9% is consumed by the residential component. The last time I looked, $14 million was being paid by big business, $12 million was being paid by the residents. If it ever fell into the hands of big business, we couldn't afford the water. I will fight to the day I die for safe, clean drinking water that's owned and operated by the city of Saint John. Thank you.
The second mayor candidate will be Matthew Thompson.
I support the stance on our safe, clean drinking water that it must stay as part of the City of Saint John, publicly owned and publicly run. We have heard in weeks gone by the talk of the fact that, we should look into P3 partnerships to fund this. When we look at some of the statements that have been made in the recent council meetings, it really floors me that some people would say that, listen, I support public, but they've touted the idea of P3 partnerships. I really believe that we as a city, being voted one of the smartest cities in the world, have everyone that we need within our residents to run our water system and to keep it public. So I vote and I pledge and I promise with everything in me that over the next 4 years, when we are able to deliver safe, clean drinking water, by being able to remodel our city to a business model, by launching it out and introducing us to the world again and saying, come invest here, that we'll be able to raise the revenue within our own city by marketing ourselves successfully to businesses and to bringing new people into our city to live once again, because it is a great city. We'll be able to stay away from any sort of private partnership at all. It needs to stay public. It's ours. It's a public resource. It shouldn't be owned by anybody but us, right? It is ours, and I support 100%, and as mayor, I will fight 100% to keep it public in every way, shape, and form. Thank you.
Councilor Hittmeyer, we'll have Shirley McAleer address the question.
Thank you, Carl. Well, everyone deserves clean drinking water. Every citizen in this city. And we need to keep it with the city. At the City of Saint John right now, we have many experts on water. We have a good water department. The one thing that we need to do, and we have to do, is make sure that the water rates don't get out of hand. We have to have them so that people can afford it. The city itself has to work with the province and the federal government to get funding for water treatment plants. You know, I've been around when we did that for years for the sewage treatment plants. It took us a long time, but a few years ago, the Premier of the province at the time, Sean Graham, was the first Premier to give a lot of money towards the City of Saint John to clean up the sewage. So we need to get friendly, or whatever we have to do with the province and the feds to give that money to us to have drinking, clean drinking water and water treatment plants in this city. We definitely need it, and we should have it. We're not a third world country. We should have clean drinking water, and we need the treatment plants. Thank you.
And Jason Robertson.
Has anyone looked at the history, especially of warfare? He who controls the water wins. We need to control our own water. It's issue number one as far as the citizens of Saint John having clean drinking water. We can't allow it to go in any other hands. You'll never see me cast a vote that puts water in private hands. It's ours. We have to promote businesses, especially our industries, to use gray water. Recycle, get their water on site, keep recycling it and using it over and over, and stop taking away from our public resources. That should be one of our main priorities, getting these industries, like they do out in Alberta, you get the water on site, it goes through the filters, you keep it there, leave our drinking water alone. Thanks.
Any of the other candidates have anything that they would like to add to that that is different? Okay. Next question, please. Please identify yourself, sir, and tell us what part of the city you're from.
Thank you. My name is Abel LeBlanc, and I've been well aware of pensions in the city of Saint John. It's been one of the biggest topics at council, and I guess my favorite show was watching council. And I'd just like to say that when I watch council, there's such a division, it's unbelievable, of the councilors, pro and con, and one against and then both. The other thing that really annoyed me about council, and I'm going to get right to the point on the pension aspect of it, because I belonged to a union for 44 years, and I know what pensions are all about. And I know my own union, the Longshoremen's Union, we had to take a cut, 5% over a 3-year period, to bring ourselves back where we should have been. In the last year or so, we got an increase. But my question is, in the pension, the fact is that I watched tonight, I watched the leadership factor. And I watched Mr. Norton talk about leadership and all this stuff. The pension aspect of it, and I ask this question to each and every one who wants to answer it. I listened to what council says and what they did. They went through A, B, and C. I'd like to know, with all the wisdom that they got, how they're going to restore that pension in a short period of time over the next 4 years.
So the first person to respond to that question will be Mr. Callahan.
And I will be the first person too to say that I'm not a pension expert nor an economics expert. But I do feel that the days of defined benefits are gone forever. Federal, provincial, city. We have to look ahead for tragedies such as 2008, because what caused it? Mostly American Wall Street and banks. Restrictions were lifted off of them. They got to do whatever they want to do, and the restrictions have never been put back. So we have to look in the future that 2008 could almost happen at any other time. So with that in mind, the defined benefits have almost got to be a thing in the past. I'm not an expert on it, and I'm trying to find out as much as I can. I've got a friend down in the States that's he's a hired gun for investing in for banks, insurance companies, large corporations that if I am elected mayor, he'd be the first person I'd come up to look at where we've been on the pension plan, where it's going now, which I haven't had the privy of seeing what they're trying to change on the regulations, but I've got a lot of ideas asking people that are a lot smarter on that subject than I am. So that's about all I can do on it right now. Thank you.
Thank you for the question, Abel. It's something that's on the mind of probably in excess of 75% of the doors we've knocked on, or the people we've spoken with. This afternoon I had a conversation with a woman at the Loch Lomond Villa, and her husband was a retired firefighter, and she had the same question for me. What are you going to do about the pension? And the first piece of it was really to, as this room already knows, remind her of how serious the situation is. It's as close to being at ruin as it can be at this point. It's almost at a 70% funding level, and if it goes below that level, that's it. There is no pension. So we have to do absolutely everything we can do to fix that. We can't take any more time than we've already taken to finish working with the provincial government to get through the reforms that are there. If we get those reforms finished, then we save the plan. That's the first step. Saving it for the people that are currently counting on it. Saving it for the retired people that have worked all those years and paid into it. Because it's not their fault, the problem that's with the pension plan right now. And then on a go-forward basis, and we talked about this today at the Villa, everyone understands that we have to do business differently on pensions on a go-forward basis. Everyone understands that there's not as many people working today as there was in the past. We can't fund retirement benefits the same way we did 30 or 40 years ago. My generation has to do retirement in a different way from my parents' generation or my grandparents' generation. That's the short answer to a long and complicated situation.
Good question, Abe. And as you're aware, many of us have been tied up with this for a number of years. And if anybody's been following the, I see the Free Ferguson shirt over here. On 3 occasions, at a minimum, over the last 12 years, starting with Shirley's administration, experts told them what they needed to do to fix the plan. But every council ignored the advice. We would not be in this mess today had we followed the advice of experts. Now, none of us up here are experts when it comes to the pension plan. None of us. What we need to do is embrace the experts' advice, follow it wholeheartedly. I am not one to stand up here to tell you that I have the answers on the pension plan. But what I will tell you is there are smart people out there that do this for a living every day. And they have provided that advice, I say again, at least on 3 occasions. And this last council was even denying there was even a problem 4 years ago. Now you'll recall that group for Fair Taxes First. We lobbied to get a meeting, an open meeting on the pension plan, and that happened in, I believe the date was in January of 2009. And even at that meeting, the experts that the pension board brought in told them what they needed to do. And they still did not act on it. Now we've been negotiating for 2.5 years. We have employees negotiating with employees on the benefits of the pension plan. We need to hire somebody to come in and tell us what needs to be done and do it. Thank you.
I guess I'll join the ranks of those who are not pension plan experts, but I think that most of us will agree on at least 2 things. First of all, that there are people who are very dependent on the pensions that they did pay into for all of their working lives. And secondly, that this current system is not sustainable as it is in front of us. I do believe that we need to get or seek advice from somebody who really understands pensions, understands what the courses of action are that are available to us. But I don't think we just pick an expert, take his advice or her advice and move forward. I think that we have to look at a variety of different models, and we have to choose the model that fits our situation best. I don't think it's a cookie-cutter approach. I think that there are some unique aspects in our community. We're dealing with some very unique aspects that happened in the past. You know, there's a market issue, there are some decision issues, there are all kinds of things that make it different. But I think it's incumbent upon us, knowing what we know now and moving forward, to look at what the experts say, look at what our options are, and choose that option that best meets the needs of our community. Thank you.
Is there anyone else that would like to add anything to this discussion?
I am chairman of the pension board by law. So whoever becomes the mayor automatically becomes the chairman. The last 2.5 years, I've been trying to solve the pension plan issue. How did I do that? With teamwork. I asked council's permission to have all the bargaining units come together to vet every suggestion that they had with our actuaries. We talked to the superintendent of the pension over the last number of years, both in Saint John and in Fredericton. 3 members of our council last month, one of them was Councilor Norton, voted against me taking the bargaining units with me to the superintendent so she could clearly indicate to them what she was looking for. So when I hear people saying, hey, I don't want to solve the pension issue, they certainly didn't want the present mayor to solve the pension issue. And I take offense to the fact that 3 members of council, after the 2.5 years, where our employees gave up 10.5% of their salaries into the pension, the highest in the country, they were paying into it, agreed to take reductions in their benefits, agreed to do that. And we got this close to solving this issue. Somebody said, oh, we're doom and gloom. I heard the doom and gloom thing. In March of 2009, there were $264 million in assets in our pension. Today, there's $382 million and $75,000 in the pension plan. The plan is not ending. Anybody who's entitled to a pension, there's money there for the next 30 years. If the plan was to end today, they're saying we need another $190 million for all those who are working with us. The plan isn't ending today. Thank you.
Any other issues that we'd like to have? Shirley?
Well, please don't attack me, but I think, you know, the pension plan is a big issue here in the city of Saint John, but I think there's some things that we could look at. They may work, they may not. We have a pension plan that is legislated by the province. I'd like to investigate that. I'd like to see if we could bring that back to the council here in the city of Saint John. Fredericton and Moncton do their own changes to the pension. They don't have to go through provincial. So maybe that would be better for us to control our own plan. Then if we wanted to make changes and had the agreement of the people that are involved in the plan, we could do it right at the city council by bylaw. So that's one thing. The other thing, we've just gone through a major legal battle here, and we all know about that. I'm saying, of course, that should never have happened, but that's just my opinion. The thing is, though, we have to look at the board structure. Maybe that can be corrected a bit. Maybe it can be changed a bit for the betterment. Maybe those things can be looked at. And I think they should, regardless whoever is the mayor or whoever is on council, they should look at those issues and see if there can be changes. I certainly agree that every employee of the city of Saint John who has paid into their pension and the retirees should get to keep their pension. But maybe employees that are not yet employed with the city of Saint John, I mean new employees, maybe we can't give them a defined benefit pension. Maybe financially, if it works for us, they would have to go on a defined contribution pension plan. Those are issues that should be looked at. And there's nothing wrong with looking at them, but whoever gets into council should do that, and they should do it right away, because this city is being crippled by the pension. And it is a big issue, but we have to fix it. We have to do something. It's not going to be easy. And I'm not condemning anyone that has worked on it before, because we've never had anyone tell us exactly what we could do to fix it. We've had experts on investments, but not on how to fix pension.
Thank you very much. Any other discussion regarding pensions that anyone would like to speak to?
First off, I'm not a politician. I never want to be a politician. If I become mayor and I become a politician, you all have the expressed, written, verbal authority to come slap me up the back of the side of the head and put me in my place. I'm a businessman. One thing I do understand about the pension is from the aspect of employee to employer. And I have to commend our employees for having to last so long and endure so much for such a long time to get a resolution to this situation. As everyone else up here, I'm not an expert. I don't think one person is an expert. But what I do know is that we need to look at the fact that we've had some hard-working people over the years in our city who have contributed, who have laid the groundwork to this great city, who now deserve their pension. They've been there, they've done it. We have people working now who deserve a pension. They don't deserve to be hanging in limbo for years on end. It's not fair. I know if it was my employees, boy, I work in construction. I'd be down in the middle of a hole in a foundation being covered over with cement for this. The thing that I do understand is this, is that there have been talks and negotiations that have been going on, and I believe that the situation can be rectified very fast. Mr. LeBlanc, we really need to fix it fast. It's drug on too long. Experts are there, we've had the advice, our employees have given concession, our taxpayers have given concession. Now's the time to act. Now's the time to make sure that everyone gets fair and reasonable representation, and that everyone gets a fair and clear outcome to this. It's not fair that our employees struggle so much. It's not fair that they have no, one of the worst things is to think that you have no future. And we need to fix it. It's going to take a little bit of work, but I believe the discussions have already been there to lay the groundwork. What we need to do is just actually act on the discussions, act on what the expert advice is, and come to a quick and mutual and beneficial end to it all for everybody involved. Thank you.
So since it's such a burning issue, we're going to have everyone give a kick at the can. Jason's turn.
Okay, I get the joke over with. Surprise, surprise, I'm not a financial expert. But I think the pension plan, it's a huge issue, and it's costing the city a lot of money. But what we're forgetting is not everyone in Saint John is under this pension plan. People that are probably going to have to pay for this, to fix this, aren't part of it. I'm not part of it. There's many St. Johners who work hard every day who have to think of their own retirement, have to do it themselves. And again, we're going back to the community helping itself. Yes, those people that are retired now, they need those benefits. We have to make sure that they have them. But for the future, maybe it's time people took it in their own hands like the rest of us do and plan our retirements. We didn't break it, but we have to fix it. Right? So maybe it's time to look at other avenues instead of these big pensions just for city employees while the rest of us have to take care of our own retirement. That's my 2 cents on that.
Okay, we have time, I think, for 1 or 2 more questions. And so I know that Wayne asked for it, and so we'll have those 2. But we'll have Wayne first, and then we'll have yours question. Is that right? Because he had raised his hand before.
My name is Wayne Dreyer, and I've lived in the corner of Sydney and St. Nicholas Street for the last 24 years. Over the last several years, there's been a lot of time and money and public interest invested in Plan SJ. We've got a new council that will be elected this month, and I'm wondering what you will do if you're elected to make sure that all of that time and effort gets carried on and implemented in the city's plans for the next 4 years.